That is some kind of long fade out on that thing. I don't know. Usually I don't actually get to the end of it. Alrighty. Here we go. We're trying to build a whole new computational stack based on these principles. First, be robust. Then, as correct as possible. And finally, third, as efficient as necessary. Efficiency usually gets put up at the top. Here we put it at the bottom, top three. But take a look at this. So I don't know if you actually saw that, but yeah, it happened again right there. The arm going across in the new nano arm technology is unbelievable. You see, there it is. Back in the previous one, it's still poking along. Just we've already had kids, and this one is about to begin copying the code from the left coder to the right coder. So it's a big difference. It's a big efficiency gain. So I'm not a big computer science theory fan, even though I'm a computer scientist and a professor and all that sort of thing. But every so often, good old Big O, the analysis of algorithms, comes up and says, hey, here I am. And this is one of those examples. The microarm, abbreviated UA, the way it works, the source of the code is at the tail, and it sends a command down to the arm, to the head of the arm, which does it and sends a confirmation back, and so on. As a result, the time per command grows with the arm length because it has to do a round trip each time. So if you have n commands and n time per command, you get quadratic n squared time. The new one, the nano arm, NA, stores the program in the head of the arm and executes it directly out from the head. So the time per command doesn't change depending on how long the arm is, so it takes linear time. So it's a perfect example of efficiency of linear time versus quadratic time. Now, anybody who knows anything about this project would legitimately say, why, Dave, are you caring about efficiency now? And the answer is, well, I don't care about efficiency, but is the stuff I was working on this last month, I needed to grow an arm that didn't have a controller at the back end. And the easiest way to do that, or the way that I thought of to do it, was to put the program in the head so that it could just use it, and it didn't have, and we could in fact tear down. What if there was a single worm head, I thought, on May 11th, that carried its whole pattern so we could actually burn up what's happening behind it and still have the program there. That was the reason I started into doing the nano arm, but it had these other effects. And just to finish the story, why is it called the nano arm? Well, because it has 2 bits per instruction, whereas the micro arm has 3 bits instruction. So here are the 8 instructions of the micro arm: go west, north, south, west. It's got a bunch of different things. And the nano arm is absolutely minimal. Go forward, turn left, turn right, and done. It's like the turtle geometry. It's like logo. So, and it works great. So that's why not and Big O. The schedule. Uh, this was officially Artificial Life Creation T plus 5, which seems to me a really bad marketing idea. So at the very end here, I've turned it around. It's now the Multicellular Challenge at T minus 1 and counting, because the next T2sday update in a month is the culmination of this 6-month journey. So what I was supposed to have done for today, for right now, is I submitted a paper to the Artificial Life Conference that's coming up in Japan at the end of July. I think that's right. Had to set it in camera ready copy. I did that. Supposed to get plans for the second half of this year. Thought about it, not really done. And I was so beat down by failing at multicellularity over the last months and months that I was just asking for plausible, not actually literally plausible necessarily, multicellularity. I think I got that, and have some big fun. Well, I still don't know if this is going to work. I still don't know what we're going to have a month from now. But, certainly over the last month, I've been just pulling new design out of thin air and just making up stuff and, going to Wikipedia, finding out how nature does it and says, okay, I can implement that. So, yeah, we had some big fun. So the schedule continues. This month was supposed to be extended germline stretch goal. Not even exactly clear what that is, but it's been retroactively redefined to be morphogenesis, the process of building the shape of an organism. In particular, building the shape of a multicellular organism, which is what we've been trying to do. We're still holding out for the multicellular menagerie a month from now. Now, that is actually July 4th is the next T2sday, which is not going to be that great necessarily for a live audience in the United States anyway. But YouTube tells me that one of my key demographics is the UK anyway. Folks have good taste. Okay, that's the schedule. Meet MC Slash. Okay, here we go. Let's take a look at this clip. Growing. There again, that was the nano arm going fast. Splitting. And now they're sort of bouncing off each other, and they almost completely miss each other. But look at that. There it is. They have locked in, and they're really pretty good. So I started a bunch of other of these little things, and it did not turn out well. A bunch of them. So these are now the lower parts of 3 different MC slashes, which have now teamed up to form a big backslash, but that's not really real. It's only doing it because it's jammed up against the edge of the universe. So meet MC slash, the multicellular slash. It's got two two cells. I've kept simplifying and simplifying and simplifying, but this actually kind of works. Multicellularity is hard. Yeah, it's still hard. Yes, it's still hard. So just to make it clear where we are at and where we are not at, here are some of the bigger bugs that are currently in the code base. I'm not going to go through any of this, but you get the idea. So it's working a little bit, and okay, I will take it. All right, so that's MC slash. We'll talk about it more in the next point. Body plans and body models. So yes, the big talk for today is morphogenesis. Literally the generation of form, biological process that causes a cell tissue organism to develop its shape. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. It's not good enough just to split and make multiple cells. We could do that when they were being single cell creatures, but they have to actually organize themselves in space in order to become a multicellular organism. And we need to be, I have now implemented a body plan concept that says, well, these cells are going to split and then one's going to go here, one's going to go here, that kind of stuff. Taking into consideration that there's no absolute geometry, there's no go to X, Y in the whole universe. Everything has to be done relative to where we are and where we think we are. And so here it is, engineered morphogenesis. So, biology and evo-devo, evolutionary developmental biology, studies how life does it, and life does it unbelievable different ways. so forth. This, of course, is coming at it in the other direction. We are engineering morphogenesis under a strict set of rules of indefinite scalability, which means we can't cheat, we can't use pointers, and so on and so forth. We have to keep everything super local and figure out how to make these big things get where they need to get. So it's something like we have the original ancestor, which is going to split into two kids that we call 2 and 3. So I'm giving each cell in a developmental sequence of a multicellular organism a number, a diamond sequence number. 1, 2, 3. 2 splits into 4 and 5. 3 splits into 6 and 7. There's this neat trick in computer science where you can use a data structure called a heap that can be implemented in an array. And the way you do it is the root is sitting at some index, some number, and you say the left kid of the root is at double that index, and the right kid of that root is at double the index plus 1. 2 times k and 2 times k plus 1, and that's what we do here. So the ancestor is 1, the first left kid is 2, the right kid is 3, and so forth. 2 splits into 4 and 5, and so on. It works nice. It's a direct analog. But we need more than just the tree structure because we have to lay them out in space. So 1 goes to split something like this, but now we want to get it into MC/. We want to get it on a northeast, southwest axis. So what I decided to do is to pick make some information. Now in this one, I'm recording the actual sequence numbers of the other ones. I eventually changed it so I'm just using kind of arbitrary tags that are supposed to match up. So if this northwest has tag 5 and this southeast has tag 5, that means they're supposed to stay close together, and that's what MC/ uses. And eventually it turns into this body plan, a series for die sequence number 1, that's the ancestor. Number 2, that's the one that's supposed to end up down on the left. And die sequence 3 is going to end up on the right, up and on the right. And so there's tag 5 that's supposed to mate up with tag 5 and so on. And it actually kind of works. Now, in order to actually do all this, we actually have to go through this whole sensory motor interaction where we get information from the world, we make assumptions about it, and we take actions and we see what's happening. And almost every AI paper you ever look at is going to have something like this as sort of figure 1, the basic layout of it. Here's the creature, here's the world, and there's this loop going back and forth around it. This is from the first scientific paper I wrote, pretty much, in 1983. I'm just going to focus on this part, the real world, which you can't see all of the real world. You can just see a little bit of it. And that gets turned into a world model that is actually part of the space that you own. And you deal with the real model, the world model. You make inferences and decide what to do and so on. And all of that has actual physical layout roles in terms of, in this case, MC/. So here's the real world. All this stuff out here, it cannot see it all. There's anything that happens out there, in particular, actually, this other diamond is not visible at the moment because these antennas would be white if they were actually sensing each other. They're not at the moment, so that's all part of the hidden world. Only the stuff that is very close to the thing is actually capable of being picked up because it's in the event window of the antennas or the membrane and so forth, and signals get sent inside, the edges of the diamond pick up the information coming from the antennas and make decisions about it based on what they know. That I'm looking for tag 5. Is there a tag 5 there? No, there isn't. So we better get away from that. All of that stuff happens at the edge, but it has to get brought to one place so that we can do inference on it. Okay, we shouldn't go northwest, but we shouldn't go southeast either. Can we go northeast? And that's where the inferences in the world model are done, or the body model. In this case, the world is the body for the single cell creature. These 4, well, there's 5 atoms there, but that yellow one is an empty one, are the body model. And each one of these is meant to control one edge. This one is supposed to decide what the northwest is doing, the northeast, the southeast, and the southwest of, in this case, MC/. And this came from the genome. It was copied as part of the initial deployment, where there's now a new chunk of the ancestor at the beginning called the body model prelude that gets copied over here, and it just sits there waiting until the mother loop goes away, and then it drives around and encircles itself, and that's what the nano arm was originally for. So that once it was sitting there all by itself, we could go bloop and close the loop for the body model to be there. And all of the decision making about let's go north, south, east, west, let's grow, all that stuff happens based on the body model, not based on reality, not even based on the perceptions, but on the stuff that's all been centralized so a decision can be made. I mean, this is obvious stuff, but making it all physical, making it all real. There are, the actual implementation. It's code. It runs for all of its troubles. So that's pretty cool. And finally, goals and plans. So for a multicellular challenge T-0, goals is MC/lives and can actually reproduce so that we have two guys, two beings, and then we have another MC/ over here and so forth. And if possible, we should get its mystical, mysterious buddy, MC/, little die, which is actually a 2x2 arrangement of diamonds. That's what I started working, but that was too hard. So I went back to MC/, come up with a schedule for the rest of 2023 and have tons of fun. And that we'll see. We'll see where we go. I mean, the chances are for the rest of the year, it's going to be not about T2 tile projects so much, although maybe we'll continue the live streams if people want to, but about making videos on the Dave Ackley channel. So we shall see. Folks, thanks so much for stopping by and checking out and having an interest in the project whenever you can manage to do it. And I hope to see you next time. Alrighty. So I will go back to the waiting room and get this thing started up, and then we can talk if there's anybody here. Okay. Well, so anyway, it's we're rendering now for what it's worth, and we just was just doing some chatting with Andrew and maybe Ben. I'm not sure who's still around. Uh, um, uh, uh, Cellular bonds could be a conceptual rabbit hole. Andrew says, yeah, definitely. With the ability to expand and contract without losing bond immediately to enable good multicellular movement. Yeah, I mean, as always, the I feel, very James Bond about all this stuff, just marching into saying, "Oh yeah, I'll do multicellularity," and then just tripping over one snare, one bear trap after another, and just walking right into all of them. And certainly a big part of it is, you need to have enough clearance. Um, so that you have time to react once you see things, because it takes time for signals to get from the edge to the center and to make a decision and make the answer get actually the action which has to flood across the cell to get back in time. And so lots of most of the stuff I tried for the first month or two was really just trying to be was way too simple. It was I was just thinking, well, this should work. If it says go, if it says it's blocked to the north, then go south. Or whatever. And they would either just completely fly apart, or they would be way too late and they would smash into each other and do damage and get a deadlock. So I had to be much more thoughtful. Number one, about how much clearance to get, and so the antennas, they're like 4 long, right? And then they have the event when the tip one has the event window, another 4 sites beyond it, so that the antenna give the cell the ability to see at least 8 sites beyond the cell membrane, which is the point at which, if you actually come in and start damaging inside the cell membrane, then a lot of things that I try to treat as best effort and variance get violated if 2 different cells manage to get past the membrane, and there's all kinds of deadlocks that can happen. But so number one, having much more of a buffer that that you can lose the antennas, and the fact they're constantly regrowing, because they expect to be in a perfect diagonal growing away from the thing, and when the diamond decides to go north or south or move, now the thing is no longer lined up, and there's some code where it can try to reline up. In a lot of other cases, it just erases itself and regrows, which had the interesting property that now it really kind of looks like cilia, like waving little motory arms on the edges of the diamonds, because you see the ripple going along the edge of the diamond, which in fact is the antennas either repairing themselves or erasing themselves and regrowing as the fracture, as the move point moves through the diamond, like that. So that was sort of fun as far as it went. But number one, so you had to get enough clearance, and then number two, I actually had to slow down how fast the diamonds could issue commands. And in the original days when the diamonds were first created, you would say like go west, and it would go west, and you'd have to wait until that west got all the way to the edge and the signal came all the way back to the center saying everybody had moved west before you could issue the next command. Okay, now go north. And eventually I got it so that you didn't actually have to do it that long. And in particular, once the diamond got fairly big, you could have several motion commands in the pipeline at once. You could say go west, and then you wait until the guys around you and the beings around them and them and them and them out to a level of, say, 4 are all saying, yeah, I've successfully gone west, and I'm not bothering with what's further out in the cell. And then the root can say, okay, well, now go north. And so the west is still propagating out at the periphery, but now a north is propagating further in. And so the value of that, how far out it has to be settled before you're allowed to initiate another move command, is something that I've been messing with for years or many months anyway. And if there are just rare, when it was four for a long time. You see, your neighbors, neighbors out to a distance of four all have to say they're on the same phase as the root before the root can go again. And I would still get these very rare deadlocks when things would go wrong, and so five seemed to be safe and so forth. But now, for these things, it's at eight. You have to get out to eight, and it's not because I saw deadlocks at 6 or 7, but it's because I wanted to have fewer commands in the pipeline. I wanted to shorten the number of stages in the pipeline so that the information that the root was making a decision based on is less out of date, like that. So the whole thing moves slower. And, I'm fine with that. Efficiency is really not what this is about. Get it to work first, and then we'll fix it. So, yeah. I'm really stretching here. Yeah. And so there are several levels now in the signaling about whether the cells, the diamonds, are too close to each other or too far to each other, too far apart. And again, I started out with a simple, if it's greater than 15, it's too far away. If it's less than 8, it's too close. Whatever it is. And now, in fact, there are several different mechanisms that kick in for different purposes. And, my top-down abstract beauty thinks this seems very hacky, very, why couldn't it be done in a more simple way? But on the other hand, they're doing these decisions for different purposes, and they take the decisions in different places that have different response time characteristics. So that can't be averaged away. You can't just say it doesn't matter anymore. We'll do it all at the root, because there's stuff you can respond quicker from an edge. If you can make a decision at an edge, then you're quicker from an edge, and that sort of thing. So we'll see. Anders, hey, thanks for checking in and speaking up. It's good to see folks coming by again. They have a temporary antenna build when bonds happen, establishing a physical history. Well, that's actually true, and it's one of the things that I have thought about, that right now, the desired length of the antenna is hard-coded, and there's just a constant that's 3. It used to be 3, and now it's 4. But you could really think that if you could vary that on, say, an edge-by-edge basis, so that once a couple of edges that wanted to be bonded, northwest, southeast, and they both have tag 5, whatever it is. So they're saying, I want to make sure of this, to let the antennas go out beyond distance 4, let them go to distance 8 or something like that. That would help a lot, but it means we'd have to have more storage. We'd have to allocate space somewhere to keep track of how long the thing is supposed to be, and we have to manage that state, and so forth. And there are limits on the antenna bring back exact coordinates like that. So they're out of date. But if everybody would just stand still, they are actually down to the individual site. Because I got burned so many times that eventually I said, well, screw it, let's just get it exact. So assuming I didn't have any more bugs, and it's not completely unlikely in this particular case. If everybody was not moving, then the edge of one diamond, it gets a signal from its antenna, which was forwarded through the other diamond's antenna from its edge, that allows this edge to figure out the location of the center of the other diamond, even though it might be hundreds of sites away. And it also can figure out the location of its own center, which again also might be dozens or scores of sites away. And so it can figure out what the perpendicular bisector or whatever it is between the two centers are, and figure out whether it wants to go north, south, east, west, or whatever to try to reduce that. And that's probably overkill. But like I said, I got burned so many times that I didn't want this to be an issue. So, but that indexing is only good for, I'm not sure, plus or minus 64 sites, maybe it is. I'm not sure exactly how much I allocated for it. But anyway, uh, um, but yes, letting the antenna grow longer on a selective basis could be a big help. Um, Smoothing the input curve like folks do with remote control. Yeah, yeah, it absolutely is. And that was one of the things that I had to learn again, that this is servo control. These are servo control loops that you have to avoid oscillations and damp them out and have enough reaction time and all of the things that, PID controllers and stuff like that could be used for, except this is all boiled down to, 6 bits here and 9 bits there and so on. Uh, uh, Room 303 Nitro. Hey, good to see you. Sorry I missed the discussion over this. How about having a shape that an edge can? Yeah, yeah. Well, so the reason the reason the diamonds are diamonds, yeah, is because that is the uniform distance from the root, from the center, in Manhattan distance. So my friend Michael Littman, the computing up computing up co-host, was saying this, that a diamond is a circle in Manhattan distance, and so really these diamonds are logical circles. They're mathematical circles in terms of the distance metric they're using. Uh, um, so I don't actually have control over that shape. I mean, we could put a fringe on it, like we could have the antennas or something that could have some kind of wavy distance. Instead of being uniform at 4 or uniform at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, they could have some kind of lock and key sort of thing. There's a certain trade-off there because the diamonds are separate agencies. They are separate synchronization zones. The one synchronizes on the basis of its root, the other one synchronizes on the basis of its root, and there's no necessary relationship between them. And the only way that we can do that is by having this buffer area where stuff can get stomped on and regrow, like the cells in your tongue, that regrow very rapidly, versus, I don't know, stuff in your bones that grows much more slowly. And so trying to take if we took the antennas and tried to make them be the lock and key, we would be asking them to do a kind of more durable task when they really are kind of throwaway. So they might not be the best way, but there could be something else. There could be, and each edge, the edges that are more stern stuff, they could have a couple of bits that says, am I a +1 or a -1 for lock and key purposes? Well, and right now I'm just doing that with this concept of the edge tag, which is a 3-bit field. And if you match, the lock and key match. If the keys are the same, and if they're different, they're not. And if it's 0, that means you didn't want anybody there. So if your edge tag on an edge is 0, then you're just going to try to back away from anybody that gets too close. If you're also going to back away from an edge tag that doesn't match you, and if you find one that does match, then you're going to try to commit to it. Like that. So it's kind of like the lock and key, but it's done with, a little teeny binary number. Yeah. Multiple controllers. You can't coordinate the movement over multiple controllers. And again, structure at all scales. Structure at all scales. I just keep coming back to that. So the HC3 grid itself is another example of having a slop, that it's all designed so that the individual HC3 atoms do not have to be rigidly in the exact same place, but they can all be plus or minus 1, plus or minus x, plus or minus 1 x, plus or minus 1 and y, according to the rules of HC3 grid, which is what allows them to move, which allows them, and now having this interdiamond, intercellular interaction region, this buffer space and so on, is doing the it's doing the analogous thing at the next level up, at the interdiamond cell level. And, the fantasy is if we learn an awful lot more, spring a lot more of the bear traps, and, get better at this stuff. And we'll be able to get significant multicellularity and start thinking about, actual organisms, multicellular organisms having buffers between each other, the next level scale as we climb up the computational stack. I have to say, for the first time in, I don't know, a pretty long time, the other day, I found myself starting to think about 3D, because these things are getting really big, and I'm committing to building at least 2 more Lotuses. We've got 4. I want to get at least to 6. I would like to get 7. I'm just worried about power and cooling and all that kind of stuff. But even with that, even if we had 7 Lotuses on the T2 tile, the full original plan build, these multicellular organisms, one of the things that is working is MC/, the cells of the slash are not full-size cells. They are restricted to 13 hops, when in order to split, you have to get to 18 hops. So one of the things that the body plan does, one of the things that the MC/controller does in that little ring around the root, is it blocks the root from growing. And one of the things that is supposed to happen, that's on the cheat sheet, it's on the bug reports of stuff that isn't working, is the lower left one, the die sequence number 2, is actually supposed to be allowed to continue to grow so that it will spread out, in theory, split again, and put off a new left daughter, which is going to be pushed out and given tag number, diamond sequence number 1. So that will restart the developmental plan and create a new MC/ somewhere else, rather than just continuing to work on the current one. And that's what I mean by having the multicellular creature actually reproduce like that. But right now, that's not working. Right now, even though the body model, the body controller, is not trying to restrict the die sequence number 2 from growing, it's still not growing because there's just too much going on. The underlying growing mechanism says, no, I need to see clear space in all directions, or I'm not going to try growing, because growing is dangerous, because you take up a whole new 3x3 all the way around yourself when you grow, and it's ballistic. If you can't do that, if you end up running into other things that are also trying to grow, then you're going to get that lock and all kinds of terrible problems. So I did start thinking about 2.1D, scalable in X and Y and some finite number of layers, 8, 16, who knows, like that. And my brain immediately locked up, thinking, no, that's just far too much work. I couldn't actually really think about doing that. But it could be a restart, maybe lessons learned, something. I don't know. I don't even, saying that out loud, I can't even imagine doing that either. Okay. Protein shapes that do the job in biology. Yeah. So room 303 nitro, the thing that I keep getting from this is that all of the stuff that life is doing in the natural physics, in the given physics, can be understood many different ways. But one of the ways it can be understood is in terms of control of space and performing work, actually making decisions, making nonlinear decisions, stay together, don't stay together, and so on. And at the level of what local work to do, what spatial local work to do, that is going to be universal. Everything that is a machine that's computing based on physical matter is going to have to deal with making nonlinear decisions in a local fashion, and either staying together or going the separate way, whatever it happens to be. And the natural biology, the natural physics that we see, the natural chemistry that we see, it doesn't have to be biological in order to have this property going on. It's happening all the way down. Are solving those same issues about making nonlinear decisions based on local information and then doing work in direction A or direction B as a result of that nonlinear decision. And so, yeah, absolutely, protein shapes are an example of that. I mean, I really like, the sort of fact of its existence, that there is a protein there at all. Like that space is filled with something versus being, water or whatever the solvent, salt water, whatever the typical, I don't even know what the intercellular plasm is really made of, but, salt water would be my bet. So having a communication, saying something just by having a big complicated molecule there or not, and then the next level of detail once we've moved on. So yes, we're definitely at the level of interacting machines. Now, is this a ribosome that's going to need to do a thing at the breaking down the thing or building or whatever and so forth, and it just unfolds from there. So taking the specifics from living systems or chemistry, biochemistry, always takes this remapping, because working in a cellular automata is a fundamentally different thing. It's sort of like the discredited view of the universe. We used to think there was an ether, a frame of reference for the entire universe before Einstein and Michelson, Morley, and all those guys. That said there is no ether, everything is relative. With a cellular automata, there is an ether. You're either in this site or you're in that site, and it has lots and lots of consequences. So everything that you're going to take from self-hosting physics, like the fact that self-hosting atoms can push against other atoms and exert forces on them directly down to the, I don't even know what, the Planck length, the phonon amplitude, stuff like that, that we really can't do because we're either in this site or we're in that site. We can't really be pushing a little bit. We have to simulate all that because of being on a cellular automata discrete lattice. So that's just an example of how we're going to need to reinterpret what we learn from biology, what we learn from the self-hosted physics, and bring it into lessons for the bespoke physics on the cellular automata, the indefinitely scalable cellular automata architecture. Software 2.5D, 2.1D, whatever it is, really exploring dedicated layers. Yeah. I mean, another thing that I've been thinking about is, suppose in addition, if you're building tiles, you're building little tiles, there's still going to be digital computers of some sort and so on. And they're going to be sending packets to each other to do cache updates, all of that stuff. We're not going to, just get rid of that all in one step. But suppose you had a few extra connections, a few actual electrical connections, pieces of wire with switches on them. And under program control, under the atomic control, the stuff that the atoms are doing, they could configure the connections between those wires so that you could actually make a circuit, an electrical circuit that would shoot through a whole bunch of tiles. And each segment of wire would be buffered and protected and so on, so shorts would stop and all the stuff that would do it. There would be limitations on it. The propagation delay wouldn't be as fast as if it was literally a single piece of copper, because we have to protect the tile and we have to protect each other from it. So there would be some sensing and stuff that would go along. But we could get it so that you could send analog signals or vastly faster than we are sending them at the moment by sending them site to site. Tell that guy, tell that guy, tell that guy, and so on. For good and for ill. The fact that we cannot do that in the existing model gives us strong confidence that outside the light cone, if you're more than 8 sites away, it's going to take at least 2 events for any influence to reach you. If it's more than 12 sites away, 3 event windows, and so forth. That's helpful. But if you want to do more coordinated stuff, if you wanted to do more efficient, large-scale creatures, then you've got to consider. I mean, we use the electromagnetic spectrum. Photons, they go really fast. They're really cheap compared to physical matter. Beating on a string, strumming a string, or tin can telephone, whatever it is, like that. So, okay. I don't know if I missed any stuff here. I'm going to scroll back real quick before we run out of time. I think we talked about a lot of the stuff. So great. Well, so I'm not exactly sure how to think about the T2 tile project videos during the second half of this year. It's really a little bit less than the second half of the year because I didn't start until February. So the last 5 months or something like that. When my goal is going to be to make videos for the Dave Ackley channel, make a combination of educational, more or less educational videos for a slightly more general audience than we do here on the T2 Tile project. But and then also some more of just trying to do the Philosoph Flame stuff, the Living Computation, the Weird Coders, the Hyperspace Academy stuff, that I want to get that out there. And if people need to hear me now and believe me later, well, so be it. But then what does that mean about the T2 Tile project slots? So one possibility is to just have a live stream, to keep going with the first Tuesday of the month, but have no pretense of producing a cut 15-minute report for the project. Just show up and chit chat if people want to chit chat about anything. So that's one possibility. Another possibility is just not at all. Just chit chat in the Discord or on ActivityPub on Mastodon or any of the social media that aren't obviously fascist, and we'll take it from there. 2.5 like walkie-talkie channels. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking about. That you'd have to get everybody to agree, just like in the old days of telephones, when you were doing telephone connections for long distance. You had to go through a bunch of switches, and each switch actually physically made a connection to a piece of copper, so that in the early days, you actually had a literal copper circuit going all the way from your headset to the headset of the guy in San Francisco that you're talking to, which is amazing when you stop and think about it. But that's the sort of thing that we could do if you could get all of the switches in between to get set up correctly. And that's the programming problem. That's a synchronization problem, a coordination problem that you have to solve. But then once you do that, you'd be able to have a certain dedicated bandwidth with far lower latency than anything that can happen site to site. Anders, thank you. I appreciate the feedback. Just live seems fair. Yeah, maybe. I'm so happy when folks stop by so that we can chat. I mean, just have something to chat about, because I never know what to say from a standing start. But if anybody else has thoughts, yeah, I can chime in. Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, maybe it would be like a half-hour live stream total or something like that, or whatever. But the point is, if I don't feel like it's one of my deadlines that I have to show progress, because I'm going to show progress by releasing videos on the Dave Ackley channel monthly instead, then that reduces the stress a lot and so forth, and makes it so it could be more of a a fun thing. I mean, we could do we had a couple of public meetings way back in the early days of the T2 Tile project. We could do a couple of those. Some kind of Zoom thing if folks actually wanted to chit chat about stuff, and on the record, on the face, whatever it is. We could do some of that as well. So anyway, that's all on the table. But we're going to get to July 4th, Independence Day, multicellular creatures. Hopefully, hopefully, and uh, uh, it, Andrew, so that's, yeah. I mean, I guess I know nothing about this, about doing headphones and all that kind of stuff in Discord. I know that's what a lot of people do because, like, they do gaming together and stuff like that, and that was all Discord. My entire Discord experience has been all text based. So, is it true that it would be like Zooms? It's camera and video, or just audio, or whatever we want. I mean, if it's Zoom, then it would be uh, audio and video, I guess. Um, and hey, if Discord manages to reduce latency, I mean, of course, latency on YouTube is ridiculous because it's a different communication scheme. But anything that lowers latency is good, as far as I'm concerned. As far as having chats and so forth, even if we can't really get it down to the 100 milliseconds or less that you really need round trip to be able to have crosstalk and have a natural conversation. Audio, video, screen share. Yeah. Well, we'll put it this way. Yeah, how to do a Discord publication next live stream. Okay, that's a good idea. Well, yeah, I appreciate that. That was to Andrew. But I would like to be in on that discussion. I would like to know how to do that. And certainly just experiment and give it a try and see how it works. And I see. So the Discord is it's like a chat room or something that the conversation is happening in real time, presumably since it's low latency. But it's not a matter of needing extra permissions or anybody who's already a member of that channel, that server. I guess that server is what it's called. Can just drop in and listen or contribute. Is it? I mean, something like that. I mean, I guess it must be. Uh, um, all right. Well, we'll have to learn about that. So, okay, it's officially the end of our hour. That's nice. I can go see if the rendering is done. So I should get started uploading this. And we'll tell you what. I will leave the. I'm going to mute the microphone for a little bit, just so I can run the air conditioning without blasting everybody to death, and get this thing uploading. And then, if there's any more chit chatting, it can keep on going. Otherwise, I'll wrap it up when I get back here. Okay.